What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Nate here from Out of the Basement, bringing you a brand new movie review. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my most anticipated movies of 2018, and that is Halloween 2018. It's been a while since I've done a solo movie review. I feel like the last one I did was probably Justice League or something, so it's a little bit weird. There could be stuff in this review that could be considered minor spoilers to some people, but to me, they're not significant enough to really constitute saying, massive spoilers ahead. But there will be some minor things that I could see people considering to be spoilers. So if you're worried about that, I'd say, maybe just hold off a little bit. But I will mostly be going through spoiler-free, especially for a lot of the big stuff. We will be doing a spoiler review together with everyone involved, so if you want to see that, stay tuned. Hit that sub button so you can see our massive spoiler talk that we'll do a little bit later in the week once we can get together. So of course, Halloween 2018 stars Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode. She is back, and once again she is stalked by Michael Myers, who has escaped once again from Smith's Grove. So of course you've seen Halloween before, most likely. It follows a very similar pattern as most of the Halloween movies. Michael escapes, Michael stalks people, Michael kills people. So if that's what you're wanting out of this movie, then chances are you're going to have a great time and you're going to have a lot of fun, because it is just a lot of Michael killing random people. But for me, I'm going to have to say, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little underwhelmed with this movie. It felt like something that I've seen before. Every single piece in this movie felt like I've been here before to see this. 20 years ago we saw a very similar premise of a movie, and that was Halloween H2O. We've essentially been here before. We've seen the whole Jamie Lee Curtis coming back, not necessarily fighting, but has to encounter Michael again. So already right off the bat from the trailers and everything, if you guys have been watching our channel, you know that at least for me, I was apprehensive about the movie. I thought that it kind of looked like a Halloween greatest hits, and so I wouldn't say that I was insanely hyped to see this movie, but I was hopeful. I was still hopeful. I don't want to seem like I'm going to shit on it in this review, because it's not a bad movie. There's just something that was missing from the movie to really make it feel complete and whole again. And we'll talk about that. But first I want to talk about the positives of the movie. So, of course, like I mentioned, Jamie Lee Curtis returns, and she's great. She's a great actress. She always turns in a great performance. The new version of Laurie Strode, which is different than how she was in H2O, but fairly similar in some ways. But she's damaged. She's clearly a little unhinged. She's still an alcoholic like she was in H2O. But this time, she's got not only a daughter, but a granddaughter. So the Strode family has gone pretty far in terms of lineage, and she's also a badass survivor now. She's got a ton of guns. Her house is totally trapped and armed. Like, she is ready to fight Michael if he ever escapes again, which obviously there's the famous line in the trailer.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell did you do that for?
So I can kill him.
So you know that there's probably going to be a showdown at some point. But like I said, she's great. She turns in a great performance. The other actors on the other hand, we'll save that for when we get to the negatives. The gore. I really enjoyed most of the kills in this movie. However, there are a couple kills where I was just like, really? Like, this is a rated R movie. A majority of the kills in the movie I really enjoyed. It's a more brutal Michael Myers, but sometimes, he's just, he stabs you once and that's it, and then other times, he goes a little bit extra with you. So it really just depends in this movie. We get a nice wide spectrum of Michael. We get some classic subdued kills, and then we get some more like updated, almost even Rob Zombie-esque kills in a way. Not saying that in a bad way, but the kills in the Rob Zombie Halloweens are intense. They're brutal. And we get a lot of that in this movie. The score is absolutely awesome. John Carpenter nailed it. A nice update to the classic score. Really enjoyed all of the bits of music. There were a couple new pieces that I recognized in the movie, and I really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely say that the score was a big positive. Michael Myers himself, who is played by James Jude Courtney, and Nick Castle in a few scenes. I couldn't tell which scenes were Nick Castle, which that could be a positive or a negative based on how you really think about it, but I choose to believe that that is a positive, that the new Michael has his movements down so well that you couldn't really tell which one was Nick Castle, who of course played the Shape in the original movie, and then James Jude Courtney, who is the new Michael. Yeah, I couldn't tell. So, props to James Jude Courtney. He did a really great job. I really felt like he was Michael Myers. So that was something that I pretty much enjoyed throughout the entire movie. And of course, with this being a high-budget Hollywood movie, well, high budget, I should say, for a Blumhouse movie, it's of course generally well made. The effects all look great. The cinematography is pretty good for the most part. There are some scenes that are definitely eons better than other shots in the movie. It almost feels like maybe John Carpenter directed some scenes or was, kind of telling them what to do, because there are just a lot of scenes in this movie where you're like, that was a really great shot. And then there's plenty of scenes in this movie where you are just like, this is so boring. The cinematography is so safe, it's so boring, it's so modern that you're just kind of like, whatever. But overall, generally well-made movie. There's not a lot of flaws going on in terms of the technical side of the movie. And that's pretty much all of my positives for Halloween 2018. Like I said, I don't want to seem like I'm shitting on this movie. I got home from the theater last night and I thought about sitting down, turning the camera on, and shooting my review because I was a little heated. I was feeling very underwhelmed. I was feeling frustrated by the movie. But I decided instead that I would sleep it off and then come back to it in the morning. So here I am, a little bit more cooled down, a little bit more subdued. But with that being said, we're definitely going to get into the negatives of the movie, which I feel like there are quite a few. For me, the negatives outweighed the positive, and that's why I'm ultimately so disappointed in this movie. First off, the script. It was written by 3 people, and you can absolutely tell. There's so many subplots that go absolutely nowhere. The movie starts as one thing, and then that's quickly abandoned, and then there's a whole nother subplot within the middle of the movie that, again, is unnecessary and is also abandoned. And then you get the main story of Laurie versus Michael, which is surprisingly not a lot of the movie. It's mostly just the third act with some little bits sprinkled in throughout the movie, which was pretty disappointing because I thought this movie was going to focus on Michael versus Laurie, which the third act definitely does, but previous to that, every time Jamie Lee Curtis is off screen, I was completely bored out of my mind by these flat, annoying, jokey characters, because there's also a lot of humor in this movie, which, yeah, there's humor in Halloween, there's humor in the sequels, but this humor was specifically, it was very Danny McBride, it was very David Gordon Green, so it was that jokey, like, explainy humor. Some things that stick out in my head, again, this could be considered a minor spoiler, but the little kid that's getting babysat was incredibly annoying, and the humor was borderline cringy, in my opinion. The one scene with the police officers describing their lunch, which that's in the third act, and it's very intense, and then there's just so many moments where the tenseness is undercut with humor, and I don't understand why, because that's not what Halloween is about. I feel like the overall tone should be straightforward horror. Sure, you can have moments of levity, but the straightforward jokey humor, especially in the one scene in the trailer, like I said, minor spoilers, where Michael is attacking the babysitter, that scene is undercut with humor for no reason. it just took me right out of the movie, and the tension that could have been in that scene, regardless of it being in the trailer or not, it was all gone. And then I just sat there like, okay, this is the movie we're watching, I guess. I can't really do much about it. The humor was just not there for me. It just didn't feel right, didn't fit the overall tone of Halloween as a series. And that's another thing about this movie, is that there is almost no atmosphere at all. It didn't really feel like Halloween to me, the holiday. Sure, there was tons of pumpkins and lights and everything lit up in the movie, but it just was lacking that atmosphere that you felt in Halloween 1978. And also, I would even go so far as to say Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. I mentioned earlier about some kills that frustrated me. There are off-screen deaths in this movie, and that is so frustrating. It's an R-rated movie. You might as well show us everything that's going on. I don't think you should hold back at all, especially in terms of some of the gory kills that we get to see in the actual movie that are awesome. And there's plenty of tame deaths too, but it's just so frustrating to have multiple off-screen deaths. Now we got to talk about Diet Dr. Loomis, who I don't even know what his name is, but I sincerely wish that his character, his plot was just not in the movie at all. He's such a nothing character. He's such a waste. He's played as an absolute joke. There's even a line in the movie where a character tells him that, oh, you're the new Dr. Loomis. And that's all he tries to be. The guy tries to emulate Donald Pleasance. And you're just like, stop, dude, just stop. His existence in the movie has no bearing on the overall plot at all, which, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of things in this movie that go absolutely nowhere. They're set up and then they are instantly just like, nope. So you can tell that this movie must have had some troubles behind the scenes. I know that at least some parts of the third act were reshot. So there's also a plot twist that kicks off the third act, and it is the stupidest thing, and like I said, it is instantly forgotten, disregarded, not going anywhere. So you're sitting there wondering after the twist happens, you're just sitting there like, why? Why did this happen? There's no point to it. There's no rhyme or reason. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't add anything to the story. It could have just completely been deleted from the movie and you would have never known anything different, but it's in there and it just feels so pointless. That's like what a lot of this movie feels like. There's just no point to it. Finally, what I will say is the ending in general was just very underwhelming. The movie just kind of ends and that's it. You think, oh, here we go, we're building up, and then title card for the credits. And as soon as the credits popped up, I just got up and I was just like that was it. All of this build up, all of this hype for this confrontation, and then it's just nothing. It's just, there's going to be another one. Everything that's going to happen. You don't see anything new with this movie, and it just ends. They're just like, okay, 90 minutes, wrap it up, let's go. And that's really disappointing because I thought that this movie was going to be like the ultimate confrontation, like H2O, between Michael and Laurie, and it's not. It's not that at all. This is literally just another entry into the Halloween franchise where you know that Michael's going to keep going, presumably Laurie's going to keep going, and it's underwhelming. I thought that we were going to get something on the level of H2O with this movie in terms of the ending of that, regardless of, how Resurrection retcons that. But one thing I'll say, you can't really criticize a movie for this because it's not like the director or the editors were cutting the trailers, but the trailers absolutely gave away way too much for this movie. I thought that, maybe the trailers, because a lot of horror movies will jumble up the scenes, they'll change things, they'll change the score so that you'll think a sting is going to happen, but it really doesn't happen in the movie. But the trailers for this movie are deadly accurate to what happens in the movie, and I would say that you probably see at least 80% of the kills that happen in Halloween 2018 in the trailers when you combine them all together. And that is super disappointing because you see the scene getting set up and you're like, oh, I saw this in the trailer, and then it plays out exactly how it happens in the trailer. I don't think that necessarily added to my overall disappointment with the movie, but it's just something that I noticed that was really disappointing in general, because I hate when a movie does that, and it sucks that it happened to Halloween. I know that Halloween fans, not all of us want to have something a little bit more interesting, a little bit deeper in their movies, and they just want to see Michael kill people. And like I said, Michael killing people in this movie is a lot of fun. You're having fun. Yeah, you saw him in the trailers, but you're seeing the effects. You're seeing the full extent of the gore, and you're like, okay, like, this is fun. So I definitely understand where people are coming from when they're saying that they love this movie. But for me, I was expecting something a little bit more. I was led to believe that there was going to be a little bit more to this movie. But what I got was a weak, messy, underwhelming Halloween entry. I still had some fun with the movie. There were moments where I was like, hey! And then they were quickly deflated by anything else that was happening in the movie. There are moments, absolute moments, where you're like, yes, they get it. This is Halloween. And then it just doesn't happen. Ultimately, those are my thoughts on Halloween 2018. If I had to give it a score, I would say that I would probably give it a 6 out of 10. Again, it's a fine movie. It's not great, but it's not bad. It's just another middling entry into the Halloween franchise. And ultimately, it just left me underwhelmed and disappointed. So I'm sorry to say that. I really wanted to love this movie. I wanted all of my expectations, all of my worries to just go away and have the filmmakers prove me wrong. But unfortunately, seems like old Nady old boy might have been right all along. So that was my review for Halloween 2018. What did you guys think of the movie? Did you love it? Were you disappointed by it? Did you absolutely hate it? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below, of course. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed my review. Subscribe if you're new. Ring that notification bell. And again, we recently hit 1,000 subscribers, so thank you to every single one of you who's ever subscribed, watched a video, commented, liked. Of course, I'm Nate, and I'll see you guys next time.